So, The Void. Now, this will be a kind of relaxed movie review. I've just sat down and watched it, and I thought what I would do, just whilst I've got some time, is just kind of sit down and give a quick review, I guess, bit of a roundup. Now, like I said, we'll be kind of relaxed. I've got some notes in front of me, that sort of thing. But this is a movie that really does need to be kind of discussed rather than reviewed in a typical format. It is extremely Lovecraft inspired, without a shadow of a doubt. Those that don't know what The Void is, it has an extremely interesting origin. It was crowdfunded on Indiegogo, of all things, and they managed to raise a very, very good sum of money, believe it or not, $82,510. This is a movie that does not, it does not look like it's been on that budget at all. You know it's a fairly low budget film when you're watching it, but to think it was, basically that they made it on, that kind of budget, you just wouldn't think that at all. It has some awesome practical effects, probably some of the best practical effects I've seen in a long time, in fact, on film, especially in this kind of genre of movie, creature feature, that kind of thing. Like I said, interesting origin. They managed to raise $82,510, and when it was released opening weekend, it grossed about $55,000, which is pretty damn good. And on a whole, now it's made over $150,000, which is, again, very, very good for a crowdfunded movie. Now, I actually put off watching this film because I heard some extremely bad things about the ending. It's not actually that bad, to be perfectly honest. If you're one of those that have heard of this film and you haven't seen it, like I was, I would actually recommend watching this film. I would genuinely recommend watching it. It's a film that is good. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but I would say it is good for how long it is. It's an hour and a half, and it is, it's not bad at all. I do have some slight issues with the ending, and I can see why people have some issues with the ending, which was, again, the reason which put me off watching it. But I'll kind of get to that. In terms of the plot, that kind of thing, it's, like I said, it's a very Lovecraft-inspired film. You get a sense of that pretty much from the outset. I mean, if anyone's read any Lovecraft or watched any of my Lovecraft videos, you would get a sense of that pretty much straight away. Essentially, there's some strange goings on. There's a cult. You don't really know what's going on. You're in a hospital, and it all goes kind of tits up, basically. In terms of a little bit more kind of spoilery details, there are some bizarre coincidences which you do have to kind of overlook to enjoy the film, or to a massive degree. A cop finds a guy, takes the guy to a hospital. Coincidentally, the main doctor at the hospital, the kind of guy running it all, is the leader of this cult. I mean, that's a massive coincidence. That's a bit of an issue. Believe it or not, this guy knows that doctor, so it's a bit of an issue. You do have to suspend some disbelief, but on a whole, the main story is pretty good as long as you can get over that. The doctor essentially experienced an issue with basically losing someone close to him, and turned to kind of the occult. Discovered some ancient entity, kind of deity, which he now worships, and essentially he can bring back the dead, which he proceeds to do with himself. Stop himself from dying and trying to bring back his daughter, I believe. Yeah, I mean, it's good. I mean, that in and unto itself is pretty Lovecraftian. The entity which you see is essentially a giant pyramid. Again, kind of Lovecraft inspired. Bit of a blend of, Clive Barker in there as well. But all in all, it's good. Like, it's not bad. The creature effects are superb for, practical effects, which, again, you have to take into account the budget. The creature effects I would liken to The Thing, the movie The Thing. It's very, very good, to be honest. To think that this was made under, $100,000, which is insane. And the creature effects are great. They've got some really interesting creature effects. Again, very, very Thing inspired, Lovecraft inspired, but all in all, very, very good. And I like the fact that they didn't go for cheap CGI in this film. It's a film that would have come across just horrendous if they had gone for cheap CGI. The fact that they, did some great things with the budget in terms of the practical effects it has to be You have to give him a pat on the back. That was very, very good. Now, in terms of the pacing of the film, it has a good pacing. I've recorded this review a few times now, so I kind of know where I'm going with it. The pacing is very, very good. Now, it's a film which, because it has a fairly low budget, you're watching it, they did a really smart thing in terms of trying to engage people straight away, and they had basically like a gory moment of intrigue about 10 minutes into the film, which really gets you hook, line and sinker. That in and unto itself is great. It's a great storytelling device and movie device when your movie isn't very high budget and it's not well known. It does get the audience engaged, and that was a great thing. I really, really did appreciate that when watching this film. It was fantastic. It's a really, really good way to get the audience engaged. Like I said, there are some weird coincidences here and there. There are some things which are fairly unexplained, and you do have to kind of overlook that when watching the film, because otherwise you won't enjoy it. You will think, well, why did they do that? Why did they do this? This isn't very good, blah, blah, blah. The thing which spurred the pacing on straight away is that a nurse at this hospital, kills someone and then proceeds to cut her face off. I mean, that is... it's not explained. I guess it's kind of explained further down the line in the story, whereas the leader of the hospital is... the doctor is the leader of this cult. Essentially, he's got influence over everyone. But there's no reason for that to have happened there and then at that point in time. There's no reason for him to reveal his hand. It does seem a little bit out of place and a bit odd, but I can overlook it because it was a good storytelling device to engage the audience. The other things which are kind of not really explained is what he was turning into. So the doctor, essentially, he dies and then he becomes... he lives again, but he then proceeds to start cutting his own skin off and becoming something very, very different in comparison to the other people who have died. The other people who died became very Lovecraft Thing-esque monsters. He didn't. He was essentially a blue necrosis version of himself, or necrotic, should I say, version of himself. Super strange. That wasn't explained, but I guess, again, suspension of disbelief, you could kind of read into it and just say, well, it was because he was the leader of this cult, and the entity was working through him, thus empowered him in that manner. But it's not really explained. A little bit odd. I'm just going to skip straight to the ending now, because I do have an issue with it. It doesn't really make any sense. The doctor's doing all of this because he's lost his daughter, and he's trying to bring her back. He brings her back through a pregnant woman, but his daughter is again one of these creature things. That doesn't really make any sense. Super strange. But then he doesn't really do anything. He allows his daughter that he's done all of this thing for to then go and essentially be chased away. Goes off to chase two of the characters, and leaves her open to being killed again. Super, super strange. If you think you start this whole cult and you go down this dark path of looking at the occult and old deities and things like this, you wouldn't then allow your daughter to die again. Super strange. But hey, that I have an issue with. The very ending of the film I have quite a big issue with, because if they didn't show that ending, I would have been happier with it. So basically there's two endings to the film. The main guy, the cop, pushes Mr. Dr. Necrotic Face into the void, this kind of gateway to the other world, I guess. And then it the whole effect goes. Basically, the effect on the hospital goes. The gateway is closed, the doctor's gone, and the two survivors then rejoice. They're amazing. We're all happy. We've gone through this. Great. That would have been a better, I think anyway, more satisfying ending than what you see about 2 minutes later. 2 minutes later, you then see the cop, the main cop guy, who is our main character, with his wife, who he previously just hacked to pieces with an axe because she was turned into some Lovecraft monster on a hospital bed. They're standing there looking at some massive pyramid going, oh, what is this in this bizarre world? This other kind of gateway void area. So that I have a massive issue with. That didn't really make any sense. It didn't marry up very well because he killed her. So how's she alive? Whether it's the afterlife or not, who knows? It's just not really explained. And I would have preferred it if they didn't show that. They didn't have to. They probably could have saved some of their budget and put it elsewhere. But all in all, it's not a bad film. The acting is fairly solid throughout. In fact, for a movie like this, my expectations were very low, but I was actually pleasantly surprised. The acting, it's by no means Oscar-winning acting, but it's fairly believable throughout. It's certainly not B-movie territory. It's, like I say, it's fairly good throughout, to be honest. The pacing is good. It's a fairly rapid-paced film, so that in and unto itself is a good point to it. Doesn't really kind of push you into the realms of getting a bit bored whilst you're watching it. And like I say, it's a good runtime. It's an hour and a half, which for this kind of film is fairly decent. The creature effects are solid throughout. Like I say, you just have to get over the suspension of disbelief on certain bits and pieces here and there to fully enjoy it, I believe. So all in all, I had a great time watching it, just the ending threw me off. I will say this though, guys, and I think I said this at the start, if you've put off watching this film because of hearing bad things about the ending, I would actually encourage you to watch it, especially if you're a long-time subscriber of mine and you've enjoyed my kind of diverse array of content. It would be right up your street, basically. Genuinely, I think it would be up your street. The homage to H.P. Lovecraft and also The Thing, that kind of stuff, you will enjoy it. It's good. It's a very good throwback to kind of 80s horror movies, but it's very like I said, it's good. I can genuinely recommend this film. So that being said, guys, that has been my kind of relaxed review of The Void. Now I will not be making this a recurring thing. These relaxed reviews will be very sporadic here and there when the film lends itself to being discussed in this way. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, obviously give it a big thumbs up. If you didn't, please, I actually would like to know in the comment section why you don't particularly enjoy this format of review. Please don't instantly dislike the video. I mean, you can if you like, obviously, but the feedback is more important than just a dislike. If you could, actually verbalize and communicate to me why you dislike this format, that would be much appreciated, because that means a lot to me and I do take these things into account. So that being said, guys, if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, click that subscribe button for more movie reviews in the future. As always, I've been Mr. H. Until next time, I'll catch you in the comment section.